when it comes to sort of making predictions about Brexit, even as far back as sort of like 2016, maybe even before that, or during those interesting, shall we say, post-referendum years, there were a lot of people making predictions about what would happen. A lot of them have come true because it was very, very easy to do, as we always said. Imagine putting together a jigsaw and essentially taking away some of those pieces. You can't complete the jigsaw because you've taken away those certain pieces. So how do you complete the jigsaw without those pieces? That was what we were always asking. That was always the question we were always asking. The Brexiteers, what is it you are saying? What is it you intend to achieve? And we were saying, if you do this, that means these trade barriers will be put in place. So, how do you intend to mitigate these consequences? We're seeing, of course, Northern Ireland flare up again because we said it right from the very beginning, from Boris implementing the protocol. Unless you intend to work and stick by the protocol, um, you know, it's going to cause potential problems. How do you intend to get around these problems? And they never had answers to these problems. The question of where does the border go, because you can't have one between, again, the North and the Republic of Ireland. So the only place you can really put one is in the Irish Sea, or you rejoin the single market customs union, and then you don't need a hard land border or a border in the sea at all. Which is it you want? there's there's so few conundrums like this, and they don't say what they want, because what they really want, as we've said before, is this massive libertarian dream of free market for everything. Government just gets out of any sort of regulation whatsoever, and just let the markets run wild. Because somehow the markets will self-regulate themselves and they'll be fine. But again, as history has shown, that's not the case. Companies are very, very well happy to cut corners, cut costs, and skirt around anything they might be deemed as doing the right thing, if it gets to save them a couple of £100,000. And there are plenty of examples, I'm sure people can cite, of when companies have done that in the past. So before we go on to looking at what David Lammy said in his very famous Brexit speech back in 2019, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a rotation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. And of course, there are the YouTube subscriptions down below, as well as the YouTube thank you button as well. So on with this. So this comes from London Economic, the title of "Everything David Lammy said in his speech about Brexit has come true." A speech made by David Lammy in Parliament back in January of 2019 has gone viral on social media after every word has been proved true by the events which have unfolded since. The Labour MP for Tottenham highlighted the fundamental dishonesty at the heart of the Brexit debate in a very impassioned address. And you may remember this back in 2019. I think we even covered this back in 2019. David Lammy's speech was absolutely corker. Very well worth a watch. But yeah, I fundamentally agree with him. There was just a massive dishonest debate. And, as much as I've said before, I do not like the House of Lords. But I'll tell you what, I was certainly glad we had them during that Brexit debate, because that seemed to be the only place where serious topics about Brexit were being discussed, because the Brexiteers certainly weren't discussing them in the Commons, but they were being discussed, of course, in the Lords. He said that most MPs now recognise in private, but do not say it publicly, that Brexit is a con, a trick, a swindle, a fraud, a deception that will hurt most of the people that it promised to help. A dangerous fantasy which will make every problem it now claims to solve worse. And we are seeing that very much now. The cost of living crisis, Brexit is a massive issue on that. But very few people are actually hesitant to sort of bring that up, which I think they should start bringing that up. He said, the campaign won on false promises and lies. Vote Leave and Leave.eu both broke the law. Russian interference is beyond a reasonable doubt, and by now, every single campaign promise made in 2016 has come unstuck. So, first big thing, Russian interference. So, the report into Russian interference in the EU election showed that Britain had failed to prepare for Moscow's meddling in the Brexit referendum. The damning 50-page document from the Commons Intelligence and Security Committee said that the ministers, quote, had not seen or saw evidence of successful interference in the UK democratic process or any activity that has had a material impact on an election. The Independent even said the report found no evidence of Russian interference over Brexit because, despite for 4 years of warnings, the government just hasn't even looked for any. The Metro, on the other hand, figured an image, of course, of Big Ben amid Moscow's St. Basil's Cathedral below with the greeting, "Welcome to Londongrad." So that was certainly one of the interesting things, and certainly something that we should be paying a lot of attention to. In fact, I'm surprised a lot of people haven't put a lot of pressure on the government to start doing something about that, but maybe. Could be a very interesting general election issue, but we'll have to see what happens in the general election. Next, of course, the big US trade deal. Lammy also touched on the potential US trade deal, dismantling the NHS, saying that Brexit will not enrich our NHS, it will impoverish it. An amendment designed to protect the NHS from being subject to any form of control from outside of the UK in a post-Brexit future trade deal was voted down by 340 votes to 251 in Parliament. Green Party MP Caroline Lucas put forward the amendment with support of the Labour leader Keir Starmer and a number of other senior MPs. She said, "We do not want anyone from warm words or nice rhetoric. What we want are some red lines in the negotiations. We want them to get them in and writing in them into the face of this bill." Immigration, of course, the big debate around that, of course, in the Brexit. So debates around immigration were also raised by David Lammy when he said this. And even those promises on immigration, which has, quote, so greatly enriched our country, are a lie. After Brexit, immigration will go up, not down. When we enter negotiations with countries like India or China, they will ask for three things: visas, visas, and more visas. And they will get them because we will be weak. And that has very much happened. It was also revealed that a post-Brexit FTA could give Turks the special status when the UK implements new migration rules. This, of course, despite Turkish immigration being used as a factor for the focal part of the Leave campaign. Again, you just can't make this up, but it's where we are. Parliamentary sovereignty. On the issue of parliamentary sovereignty, Lammy has said, once being proved to be bang on the money. He said, the myth of restoring parliamentary sovereignty has been shown to be a joke, with the Prime Minister hoarding power like a deluded 21st century Henry VIII. The impact assessments have been hidden, votes restricted and blocked, simple opponents of a government policy bullied and threatened to going to the line. Emily Thornberry warned that Parliament has been denied a voice and a vote over the future trade deals after the ministers resisted a Tory backbench attempt to give Parliament a definitive say. She said, "We have constantly warned that this bill drives a cart and a horse through the very principles of parliamentary democracy, and nothing demonstrates that more than the story of this passage. Time and again last year, the flaws in this bill were exposed and amendments were agreed in this House and in other places to correct them. But here we are again tonight with almost the exact same bill, RE submitted and then bulldozed through with all its glaring flaws still intact. This is how little the government cares about democracy. This is how little they have cared about getting this bill right, just as opposed to try and getting it through." Of course, Lammy's full speech, we won't go over that. But yeah, of course, and I think we're going to start seeing more of these, to be honest. I think we're definitely going to be looking at all these predictions coming true very, very quickly, very, very fast. Because as we've said many times before, you may remember back in 2020, we were saying, why are you still going ahead with Brexit about, the pandemic? We need to concentrate on that. Let's put the brakes on. Let's work through this worldwide issue and then see what it's like on the other end. But no, the Brexiteers were desperate to get Brexit through and done because, again, they did not want anyone to stop and think, like we are seeing now, of, oh, that's not a good thing. Why are we doing this? And of course, again, push, push, push. And one of the things we always said was those two first crucial years, like 2020 and again 2021, we saw pretty much Brexit being covered up by the pandemic, which was always the case for them. It was an absolute godsend that happened for them when they did, because now any damage to Brexit can be just, oh, that's not Brexit, that's the pandemic damage. Don't be silly. There's no there's nothing you can prove about Brexit. But of course, as we said, the more and further we get away from the pandemic and into sort of the recovery period that we are now, and we are seeing this in the figures and the numbers, the trade numbers. The world is experiencing a massive trade boom because, again, everything is getting back to normal, except us, and we're missing out on this. Why? Because of Brexit. It's not just that. There's other things as well that are also affecting our economy. We're heading into a recession. No other economy in the world seems to be heading into a recession apart from us. That is, again, partly because of Brexit as well, the problems that Brexit has created. And there's so many other problems that it has created that, we have to solve, we have to tackle. But until people actually start having serious grown-up conversations and start saying, well, actually, Brexit is a problem, this is what it has done, you can't seriously address these problems until you would start to admit that Brexit is a problem. And given our current government, there is no way, like the current Johnson government, some Tories maybe would be willing to accept that Brexit is a problem, but party politics and all that. But I would love to see certainly Labour and even the Lib Dems start to take it more, saying, hey, this isn't just a problem. Your Brexit guys, the one that you got through and, quote, got done, is causing these problems in my constituency, to the UK economy. Let's start solving them. But of course, ideologically, of course, as we said before, that's what they are. The Tories are complete ideologues. Brexit is a wonderful idea, and there should be nothing wrong with it, and it should be all, sunshine and roses from here on out. But of course, no. This is why we've got a government who has absolutely no idea on any solutions or any clue to try and solve the cost of living crisis, the energy increasing prices, you name it. They just haven't simply got a clue. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.